Virginia played without its big three in its 31-28 loss to North Carolina. Hi, I'm Chris Graham. We're going to talk some UVA football here. We're going to talk about the MIA, the missing in action. And was that the mutiny that I talked about earlier this week? Officially, no is the answer. Not the mutiny, at least, again, not officially. Virginia had to play without the big three, the guys being Lavel Davis Jr., Keytaon, Thompson, Dontavyion, Wicks. Thompson and Wicks were on the sidelines in street clothes, and Lavel Davis Jr. wasn't on the sidelines, curiously, yesterday. Now, officially, the word is that those three and also Paris Jones, the starting tailback for Virginia, were out. Well, we don't know about Paris Jones, actually. He wasn't talked about in the postgame presser, but we'll presume with injury. I don't know that I saw Paris Jones on the sidelines yesterday either. But there were injuries for the three. Now, according to Tony Elliott after the game, Wicks was out with a bone bruise that the coach said after the game could be longer term. And we'll talk about that more in depth in a couple minutes. Thompson and Davis missed the game with undisclosed injuries. Again, we don't know about Paris Jones. We don't even know if it's an injury. We'll presume so. All three had been listed as starters on the depth chart on Tuesday. So something happened between Tuesday and Thursday, because Elliott said he found out on Thursday that the big three were going to be out, and he was going to have to go with a different wide receiver group. Billy Kemp the fourth, Demick Starling were the starters, and then Sean Wilson and Ethan Davies got a lot of reps. I'll look at the number of reps and report on that this week as the Pro Football Focus numbers come in. Also, because of the big three being MIA, Sackett Wood, the tight end, junior tight end, was used prominently in the passing game, had a career day, 6 catches, 8 targets for 94 yards. He got robbed of a 34-yard touchdown. They rolled him down and out of bounds at the inside the 1. Virginia scored on the next play. Didn't look like the call was right, but there were a couple of replay calls that were a little messed up yesterday. And so Wood had a big day, and it's weird. If you didn't look at the stats too closely, you would have felt like the passing game didn't really miss a beat. But then when you look at the stats, Brennan Armstrong was 17 of 35 for 232 yards against a team that is 14th in the ACC in passing yards per game, 14th in the ACC in pass defense efficiency. And his numbers were below the averages given up by North Carolina on the season. So part of that issue, Demick Starling, sophomore, had 1 catch on 6 targets for 40 yards. There were still issues with pass routes being run incorrectly, guys running into each other. This is the 9th game of the season. That kind of thing should not be happening. All the blame is being thrown on Brennan Armstrong. He can't make guys run the routes. That's someone else's job. Offensive line did a great job. Virginia ran for 186 yards. Again, this is against the Carolina defense that ranks 14th in the ACC. Both in total defense, in addition to the passing issues, total defense, and then also in scoring defense. And there's only 14 teams in the ACC, so 14th means last. I would just love to have seen, because the offensive line was getting such a push, I would have loved to have seen the numbers that Armstrong would have been able to put up with the big three in the lineup. Talking to more from Elliott, he said, now I mentioned that he said that the issue with Wicks is going to be, quote, long-term, but then he said it's nothing that's going to be too long-term. So again, very unspecific. Elliott said it's more about pain tolerance as to when he can come back. As far as Thompson goes, he said, quote, that was a decision that was trying to do what was best for him and the football team, and we felt like not risking it this week and being able to give him a little bit more time to recover. We expect him to be back in practice next week, ready to go. Not knowing what the issue was, again, on Tuesday, Thompson was on the depth chart as the number 1 wide receiver on his side of the field. And then from between Tuesday and Thursday, something happened. This must have been a rough week of practice if all these injuries happened during practice this week. Davis is a day-to-day situation, nothing more specific than that. Word is that he was fine on Thursday, so I don't know. And after practice on Thursday, so I don't know what the situation is there. More specific to Davis, but he wasn't even on the sideline, so maybe that says something about a concussion injury. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't be on the sideline if your teammates are there. And I shouldn't speculate there, but he wasn't on the sideline, and that's a big issue. The loss drops Virginia to 3-6 and a 1-5 mark in ACC play. So getting back to the talk about mutiny that I brought up, that some people weren't very happy that I brought up earlier this week, and that's fine because I think again officially these guys are hurt, and we don't know what the issues are. I guess we know bone bruise for Dontavyion Wicks. There's also just been the frustration that's been obvious. Elliott was blowing up at players as early as week 2, visibly on the sideline, and the loss at Illinois. We saw that again yesterday with the special teams issues, which we'll talk about more in depth here in a minute. There was lots of jawing going on there on the sidelines between Elliott and his coaching staff and a couple of players. And word out of the locker room is players have been frustrated with that. I've even heard some assistant coaches have been frustrated with that. And that players, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, have been frustrated that they don't feel like the offense has been run right. Let's just maybe leave it that way, right? So when you see the 3-star players and a 4th starter not dressed out, it's natural for your mind to go where I've been telling you for a couple weeks it might be going. And you don't have to be happy with me. I'm not happy either. I want my days are better, my weekends are better when Virginia wins too. It's not just I'm a fan as much as I'm a journalist. So that is what it is. Let's talk about a couple of in-game issues now. The timeouts issue. This is one that this is why people are frustrated. This is why players are frustrated. It's why other coaches on the staff are frustrated. So Virginia, let's start at the end and then go back to where it started. At the end of the game, Virginia scored with 3:24 to go. Brennan Armstrong with a hearty 8-yard scramble. I mean, he ducked his shoulder. He put his season on the line on that touchdown run. I mean, he literally ran through a couple of guys to get in the end zone on a scramble from the 8, and it made it 31-28. Now, Virginia did not have timeouts. So the choice then was, do you kick it deep and try to get a stop and get a punt? With no timeouts, Carolina's probably going to run the ball 3 times. You run the ball 3 times, 40-second play clock, that's at least 2 minutes off the clock. And if you account for a few seconds in between plays, probably 2:15 or so off the clock. You kick it deep. If you kick it in the end zone and it's not returned, if you get the stop on defense and you get a 3 and out and then make Carolina punt, you'll get the ball back around a minute to go with no timeouts. Probably, I mean, if you stop them between the 25 and 35, you'll get the ball back 40-yard punt, 45-yard punt, even let's just say from the 34 at the most. You'll get the ball back around your 20-yard line. You need a field goal. You got a minute to go. You got a few plays. The clock stops after first downs as they reset the chain. So you get a little bit of time there. Virginia had scored in 59 seconds on its previous drive, the drive that ended with the Armstrong touchdown run. So you got a chance. So why not kick it deep and play defense? Well, Tony Elliott decided to go with the onside kick. And he said, if you have 2 timeouts, it's a different decision. Now, why didn't he have at least 2 timeouts, if not all 3? Well, Virginia burned its first time out of the second half, 4th and 1 at the Carolina 46. And Des Kitchings and Tony Elliott looked like the play call was, let's see if we can draw them off sides. And then when your play clock's down, that's the play call. You don't actually have a play call behind that. When your play call is, let's try to draw them off sides. If you don't draw them off sides, you call timeout with a couple seconds left on the play clock to see if, and then you decide what to do. And Virginia decided to go for it, got the first down, ended up scoring a touchdown. So that worked out in a sense, but then, okay, you blew a timeout on the trickery that didn't work. If on 3rd down you're thinking on 4th down we're going to do the try to draw them off sides play, you're already committing to blowing a timeout, which is a waste of a timeout. Okay, let's just be honest about that, right? So the other 2 timeouts were blown on punts. both in the fourth quarter, both with Virginia down 10 points. The first was with 11:25 to go, 4th and 2 at the 22. Virginia's 22. You're not going to go for it there. The risk reward is just not there. So you're not going to go for it. Virginia didn't have enough players on the field. There were some substitution issues, which have been consistent with this special teams unit this season. So Virginia decides to call timeout. Elliott decides to call timeout. The second one was on Virginia's next drive, a 4th and 10 at the UVA 32, 6:11 to go, still down 10. And, again, substitution issue, not enough guys on the field. They call timeout. I'm not the only person who said this. I've seen some other people on social media say this, but we're saying this during the game. Why are you blowing a timeout? A timeout is not worth 5 yards of field position. A timeout, especially when you're down 10. Now, it might, let me go back. It might be worth 5 yards of field position if it's 3rd and inches, and then, you don't have the right play in, you don't have your personnel in, and you decide to call timeout. You don't want 3rd and 5, you got 3rd and inches, right? So but on 4th down, you're going to punt it away anyway. 5 yards of field position is not going to throw you off that much to justify blowing a timeout. If you do it the first time, don't do it the second time. I know you're not supposed to have the issues you're supposed to, with substitutions. You're supposed to have your guys in the game, and that's another issue for another day, but don't blow the timeouts, right? That's Tony Elliott's call. That's not Keith Gaither, the special teams coach. He's the one who can't get his special teams unit in the correct position and have enough guys on the field, have the right guys on the field. That's his job, but he's not the one calling timeout. He's not the one who called timeout on the 4th and 1 at the 46 after the trickery didn't work, So there's no reason that any of those 3 timeouts should have been called. There's no reason. Okay, so there's that. Don't blow your timeouts on 5 yards of field position. And then on the onside kick, you don't need the onside kick there. You're down 3. It's 31-28. So the success rate, I've tried to find something very specific. I'm surprised to know that there's not more detailed information, specific information about success rates on onside kicks. What I found was that onside kicks that are unexpected, the success range is in the 40 to 45% area. Those unexpected onside kicks where, third quarter, your staff has noticed something in the way that they set up their return on the front line, and you do the surprise. They're not looking for it, so you have a better shot when it's an expected onside kick. The range of success is 18 to 23%. And that sounds high to me, but that's what the numbers I found have to say. So 18 to 23%. So 77 to 82% chance you don't get it. And if you don't get it, you're kicking off from the 35. The other team's going to get the ball at least at the 45, right? Well, Carolina, in this case, the ball bounced around a little bit, and Storm Duck picked it up and ran it back to the 28 before, and he was actually going to run it back for a touchdown because he had the open field. And Carolina's done this before this season. In fact, late in the game against Appalachian State, it was a 56-55 game in that one. And I don't know who it was for Carolina, so I'm not going to blame Storm Duck. But the Carolina returner actually picked up the onside kick and ran it in for a touchdown. And that gave Appalachian State a chance. In fact, Appalachian State had 30 seconds, maybe 20, 25, 30 seconds, got a touchdown and just missed a 2-point conversion that would have tied it at the end. So Carolina learned a lesson. Hey, okay, if you get an onside kick and you got open field, fall down. Because if Carolina scores there, it's still 3-something to go in the game. Virginia can score again and maybe get an onside kick, or something can happen. And so Storm Duck just fell down at the 28-yard line. And then Virginia, it turned out there was a flag on the play. Virginia was offsides on the kickoff, so wouldn't have mattered anyway. But so Carolina has 1st and 10 at the 23. They're already in field goal range. So if you stop them on 3 plays, like you're hoping, if you could have hoped to if you kicked it deep, you stop them on 3 plays, they kick a field goal, it's 34-28 with a minute to go. Now, instead of needing a field goal to tie the game, you need a touchdown to win the game. You still have the same amount of time if you get to stop. Why did you don't need to onside kick there? In fact, it's better if you don't onside kick there. So, but Tony Elliott, that was his decision. He decided to onside kick there. From the onside kick to the end of the game, so Carolina picked up the first down. And then they didn't need to do anything else. They got into victory formation. And Virginia picked up two real cheap shot penalties on the next two snaps. Cam Butler was penalized for a personal foul after a helmet-to-helmet hit on Drake May. It was just totally uncalled for. That's all I can say. So it was uncalled for. I mean, love this team, but that was not a good play. Play later, Olu Ogunloye was assessed for an unsportsmanlike conduct foul on another takedown. Kneel down. It was a takedown too. Ugly fouls. I mean, these are sore loser fouls. You've lost the game, and now you for whatever reason Tony Elliott's been trying to stamp out the jawing back and forth, at least our side of it, right? Trying to get his guys to stop worrying about the trash talking and just play football. And, so there's jawing back and forth all game long, and Virginia loses the game. And when the other team's in victory formation, the game's over. And they're out there doing these dick moves. Let's just call them what they are. John Rosinski, offensive defensive coordinator, has been doing a great job with this Virginia defense all year long. He was all for it. We're going to play to the last snap, Rosinski said, as long as that ball is live. I'm quoting him here. Shoot, I've seen a ball pop out there at the end and guys get an opportunity to get the ball back. And so our guys are doing what they've been coached to do. I know they're going to get that. I know that you're going to get that in that formation, and we're going to make sure you have to earn it for 60 minutes. A reporter pressed him on the penalties, asking if he was frustrated by them. He reiterated the young men did and executed what we asked him to do defensively. Elliott offered a different perspective. We've got to be smart, Elliott said. We don't want any personal foul, and we don't want anybody ejected from the game in that situation, which is an important thing. You get ejected from the game, you're ejected from that game, and you miss the first half of the next game. Virginia doesn't want to go without Cam Butler or Ogunloye for the first half of the game against Pitt next week. At the end of the game when the game's already decided, a stupid play. So going back to quoting Elliott, we're trying to see if we can force them to make a mistake, but at the same time, you got to be smart right there. And one thing we talked about is winning and losing with class. Emphasis, class. I'm putting the emphasis there. Back to quoting. There at the end of the game, you can see the guys getting in each other's faces after the game, but we don't have any time for that. When you win, you want to be humble, and we want to be humble in defeat as well. The only thing I agree with from the post game and from yesterday, anything going on with Tony Elliott, if you're going to do it with class. That's just bottom line, right? So Virginia lost 31-28. Go to Augusta Free Press for lots of detail on the game. Stories by me, by Scott German. And throughout the week, we'll get you ready for Pitt. And of course, I mean, hey, there's Virginia basketball tipping off tomorrow. The women at 5:00 in JPJ, and then they'll clear the arena out and let folks back in for the 9:00 men's game. The men will be taking on North Carolina Central University, NCCU, in the season opener. So we'll have a late night at JPJ tomorrow night, but we'll have plenty of post-game coverage there as well. So busy times here at AFP covering UVA sports.